All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Hold on, Dan.
Oh,
I got to do the moderating thing. Sorry about
yeah.
this. And this might be a while. Hello and welcome to the 2026 SUNY Online Summit. I'm John Zelenak, the Operations Manager at SUNY Online at SUNY System Administration. I'll be your session moderator and will be available in the chat during the session for any questions you may have. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Dan Feinberg is Interim Director of SUNY Online. Since joining the organization in 2010, Dan's job has allowed him to work with SUNY's broad diversity of campuses and stellar higher ed professionals across the state. He has traveled across the system working with faculty administrators to help implement high quality online instruction. Prior to joining SUNY System Administration, Dan worked as an instructional designer at Schenectady County Community College and the University at Albany's Rockefeller College. He won numerous grants and awards as a middle school teacher in Washington, D.C., including a scholarship from the Fulbright Memorial Fund. He earned a bachelor's degree in neurobiology and behavior from Haverford College and a master's degree in instructional design from George Mason University. He has served 9 years on the Scotia Glenville School Board. Kim Scalzo is Senior Associate Provost for Digital Innovation and Academic Services at SUNY System Administration, with responsibilities for academic technology, innovations and teaching and learning with technology, and academic shared services across the Provost's office. Kim co-led the transformative statewide implementation of SUNY's digital learning environment, is currently serving as an implementation director for a set of academic innovation initiatives under SUNY's Digital Transformation Project, and coordinates the SUNY Provost Office support for faculty around AI in teaching and learning. Kim previously served as director of the SUNY Center for Professional Development and as executive director for SUNY Online. Prior to joining SUNY, she held multiple roles at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, leading continuing education, academic technology, and distance learning activities. She received her master's degree in education in college student personnel from the College of St. Rose and her bachelor's degree in computer science from SUNY Plattsburgh. As Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Dr. Julie Hartley-Moore oversees academic programs, planning and assessment, and university academic initiatives to support the highest quality teaching and ensure student access to education opportunities. Her portfolio includes leadership of the Office of Global Affairs, International Student and Scholar Services, and Education Abroad, and for SUNY's Digital Innovation and Academic Services, Online Education Initiatives, and the Office of Library and Information Services. Dr. Hartley-Moore previously served as campus director at Utah State University and a dean of Elgin Community College. She is an accomplished educator and researcher, having mentored over 150 student theses and has published on topics ranging from cultural tourism and sustainable development to higher education leadership and policy. Dr. Hartley-Moore earned her PhD in applied anthropology and education from Columbia University, a Master's of Arts in American Studies from Utah State University, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in anthropology and French from Brigham Young University. Please welcome Dan, Kim, and Julie.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for spending time with us today. Like we mentioned earlier, it is the 27th convening of the SUNY Online Summit. I'm super excited. We've got a great week of presentations set up for everybody. Super fortunate that Kim and Julie are able to join us today. Anxious to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to turn it right over to Julie. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dan. And I am going to apologize in advance. I'm working from home and my cat just figured out how to open the door and is meowing in the background. So I have never had him do that before. He could be our entertainment for today. I want to give a big shout out to Kim Scalzo and to Dan Feinberg and John and others, Michaela, who have been involved in organizing this conference. I would like to point out that last year we held this conference in person in Syracuse in February. I'm so glad we opted not to do that this year because travel this week would be a little bit dicey. So I'm so glad you could all join us online. I also want to give a big shout out to the faculty, staff, and leaders who champion online education at their campuses. It takes a lot of work to pull off quality online teaching, and we want to recognize all that you do in support of those efforts. Also, another big shout out to the SUNY Online ambassadors and award winners who are being recognized at this event this week. So, as somebody mentioned before we got started, maybe John, maybe Dan, this is the 27th occurrence of the SUNY Online Summit. That is a pretty long track record, not just for having online classes in place, but for trying to coordinate and provide support for the people who are actively involved in providing online education. We're so pleased that we have online practitioners in various roles attending, from program administrators to instructional designers to exemplar online faculty, online student support administrators, and online academic program support for professionals from across the SUNY system. But this summit is also open to the general public. We have 800 registered individuals, and I want to give a special recognition to friends of SUNY who have registered from 30 different states. So thank you for joining us today. For those of you who are joining us from outside of the state and may not be familiar with the SUNY system, SUNY stands for the State University of New York. We are the largest system of higher education in the United States. We have 64 campuses ranging in size and mission, from medical schools to world-class research institutions to regional comprehensive universities, technical colleges, and comprehensive community colleges. Our campuses offer more than 40,000 online course sections annually and about 1,000 online degree and certificate programs. That means that in the fall of 2024, there were about 150,000 students registered either in one or more online classes within the system. We're doing a lot of work to try to be systemy about our online course offerings and make sure that we're providing the right mix of programs for people across the state of New York and for students from outside the state who may choose to attend, that we're not significantly overlapping in ways that would hurt existing programs, but that we're providing a robust offering that makes it possible for students to access courses and programs when they need them. I just want to mention that I have taken courses online as a working professional, and I would not have been able to attend school if I had not had that option to flesh out my schedule when I couldn't be attending in person. I want to talk specifically now about quality of online education because we are very concerned that our students get a quality experience when they're enrolled in any of our SUNY classes, whether they're face-to-face or online, and that our programs are well designed to help provide students with the well-rounded educational background that they need as college-educated individuals and citizens, but also to have the workforce skills that they need to go out and further their careers. We have 4 pillars within the SUNY system that we often rely upon as part of our strategic planning to ensure the type of quality and access for all New Yorkers to education across the state. Our 4 pillars are student success, diversity, equity, and inclusion, economic development and upward mobility, and research and scholarship. So I just want to highlight a few of our SUNY-wide initiatives that touch on some of those pillars, and you'll be hearing about these in more detail as we go through the course of the week. And some of these are so exciting, I think you will be quite interested in what people have to share. So we have a lot of attention paid to adult learners. We have an adult learner initiative across the system. We also have the SUNY Reconnect program, which has helped over 5,600 adult students begin associate degree programs, essentially for free. They don't have to pay tuition and fees. We'll be hearing from Valerie Dent, the Vice Chancellor for Community Colleges, talking about some of those programs on Tuesday. We also have a big push going on right now. Those of you who are instructional designers and faculty may be knee-deep in this initiative to try to make sure that all of our digital materials are accessible. You'll notice I'm not using a PowerPoint slide because I don't want to mess that up in terms of accessibility. Kim has coached me on how to make those accessible, and I understand the importance of doing that. We'll be hearing from Lauren Rodriguez and Kim Scalzo and somebody else whose name I'm blanking on, Cassandra.
Caruto Down.
Thank you. Later today about some of those initiatives. SUNY has been trying to collaborate across institutions to make that process much easier. We have templates for things like PowerPoint slides that if administrators like me would choose to use them, it would make their lives much easier. We have course learning management systems that can help make that process easier for faculty. And we do have a set of accessibility fellows who can help individual faculty and campuses as they're engaging in that important work to make sure that all of our students can access our materials in a way that supports their learning and engagement. We'll also be hearing about our ASAP ACE programs to try to provide supports to students at need to be able to access higher education, and our Academic Momentum campaign, which is trying to ensure that as many students as possible are enrolling full-time, accessing financial aid and other supports, and importantly, engaging in critical gateway courses like English and math during their first 30 credits of enrollment. I suspect a lot of the faculty joining us here today are teaching some of those critical gateway courses, and we'll be excited to learn about some of the supports that we have underway there. So let me highlight just a few of the things we're doing for faculty and others to provide high quality online education. I want to really emphasize the quality of our open educational resources programs, which provide textbooks and other materials, sometimes course shells that faculty can use to provide resources for students and sometimes fully online course designs for students in a way that's been really critically evaluated to improve student success. Looking at the outcomes of some of our courses using the OER materials and the online courses designed around those materials have astounding success numbers compared to some of our more traditional courses. And we want all of our students to have access to that high quality of instruction and course materials. I mentioned our Gateway Course Success Initiative earlier. We will be partnering with 24 of our campuses to work very intensively with faculty from mathematics and quantitative reasoning or communications programs to look at the pedagogical design and the instructional supports offered to students in those introductory courses that kind of set the foundation for the rest of their coursework in higher education. We'll be hearing about a lot of digital transformation projects, including AI advising and AI tutor pilots that are underway to provide supports to faculty and to students. And then I do want to highlight efforts underway to support academic quality in other introductory courses, including our general education course requirements. We have a series of faculty fellows who can help with courses that receive a diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice designation, a sustainability designation, our new civil discourse and civic education and civic engagement, and AI for the public good general education outcomes. Those fellows can meet with faculty to provide them with support for their courses, or they can provide trainings for clusters of faculty and for campuses. For those of you who are teaching general education, special mention about our general education conference, which will be held April 9th through 10th in person at Saratoga Springs, New York, a lovely spot. If you have not been there, I encourage you to join us. This conference is being held in partnership with the Faculty Council of Community Colleges and the University Faculty Senate from April 9th through 10th. And we will be having a primary focus on artificial intelligence literacy, civil discourse and engagement, equity, access and inclusion, social justice, and sustainability. And then one final note, we have formed a Chancellor's Working Group on faculty and staff well-being at our SUNY campuses. We are leading that working group in conjunction with our Faculty Senate leadership. If you have thoughts on things that SUNY as a system can do to support faculty in their role, preferably thoughts around initiatives that don't necessarily require extra financial resources, please share those with your Faculty Senate representatives. We are trying to incorporate those into guidelines on best practices for campuses around creating climates that support faculty well-being, but also things that SUNY system can do to provide policy support or other forms of recognition of the work that faculty and staff are doing on our campuses. If you have questions about any of these initiatives, please feel free to reach out to me or to other folks in our staff. And thank you so much again for joining us today. And a big thank you again to all the people who have organized this conference and will be participating in this conference. I am very excited about the materials that we're going to be learning here. Last year, one of our keynote sessions was so striking to me that I have found myself referring to it over and over and over again, and I suspect we will have those types of outcomes again this year. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Julie, very much. I believe I'm up next, and I have a short slide deck that I'm going to run through. So let me just bring that up. And while that is coming up, I want to just say, add my welcome to everybody else's for everybody who is attending. This is always one of my favorite events every year, and I look forward to when we get to do this in person again. The area that I lead within the Provost Office is Digital Innovation and Academic Services. And I wanted to just share a little bit about the work that we're doing within DIAS, as we call it. We, in alignment with the Chancellor's priorities that Julie just went through and the work within academic affairs, what we've been focusing on in our portfolio are these few things. Digital accessibility, which everybody has as a priority this year, I think. Supporting SUNY's work around AI for the public good, which is the umbrella for all the work that we're doing in artificial intelligence. We've also put a lot of focus on strengthening the partnerships that we have with some of our vendors and trying to focus the work that we're doing around innovation to achieve impact and greater impact. So I want to just say a little bit more about some of the things that Julie mentioned, the sessions that are additional sessions that are happening today. We are going to have a team of folks from SUNY's Digital Transformation Project who are here to talk about some of the projects that we're working on that are probably of most interest to this group here. So I hope that you'll stay around and tune in for that. In the digital accessibility session that Julie mentioned we have later today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have as part of SUNY's policy on EIT, or electronic and information technology accessibility. New York State has a law that's related to accessibility of websites, and the recent Title II changes to the ADA and how that's affecting all of us. We're also going to share a little bit about what we've been doing in the way of funding and support services to help our campuses be ready for the Title II changes in our New York State law and SUNY policy. And a lot of our work over the last several months has been how we help campuses get in compliance with the requirements, but what also can they be doing to demonstrate compliance? So we'll share a little bit about that as well. So hopefully you can join us for that session. So getting to some of the work that we're doing in DIAS to support our campuses. Over the last year, we had a task group under the Faculty Advisory Council on Teaching and Technology. This was last year, working on AI in action. And this was a task group that was looking at best practices for AI tutors, policy considerations for AI in teaching and learning, and how you evaluate the effectiveness of AI tools for teaching and learning. And they published a guidebook over in fall of 2025 that is now available. And actually, I'm just going to go to the chat because I have some links in the chat that I want to share with everybody. I'll talk through all of these. And so that's that first link in the chat. And so hope that you'll take a look at that and share that out with others as a helpful resource to anybody who's working with AI in teaching and learning. Our task groups for this year are working on the intersection between accessibility and AI, really looking at how AI can be brought to bear to support faculty and to provide access to students in courses and with access to academic resources and services. So there's some really interesting things happening in that space, and really pleased to have a group that's taking some time to do a deep dive, and will put out a report later this year on the work that they've been doing. The other task group that we have this year is technology to support credit for prior learning. We have a update of SUNY's policy that all of our campuses have been working on implementing. And so this task group is looking at what we can do to support that work with technology solutions, and how we can align the work that we're doing within campus structures and procedures. So those groups, we'll be looking forward to them providing their reports at the Conference on Instruction and Technology later this year. And hopefully we'll be putting out a new guidebook from the Fact Council that will summarize their work. Okay, let me go to the next slide. So for those of you who are within SUNY and familiar with what we do in SUNY, annually we have a grant program for what we call academic innovation grants. They include our innovative instruction technology grants and open educational resource impact grants. All totaled, we give out over $1.1 million to campuses. And generally these go to teams or groups of faculty and staff who are working on a set of priorities that we've identified for the system. This year's focus is on AI, openness, and accessibility. No surprise there. I'm excited to say that we are in the process of receiving campus proposals right now. We have over the last few years been encouraging campuses to collaborate with each other and to submit multi-campus proposals, and we're increasingly seeing more of those, so excited for that as well. And that is the second link that I provided in the chat if you want to see what's happening there. Julie mentioned our AI for the Public Good Faculty Fellows, and while their focus is on supporting general education and supporting campuses, we are also working with them to engage with us in some of the AI for teaching and learning initiatives that we have in process. They've also been doing a fair bit of speaking with campuses and others who invite them to their meetings to provide that faculty perspective, and they've just been an incredible group. I get to meet with them every other week, actually sometimes every week, and really inspiring group of faculty who are really passionate about AI, supporting both Gen Ed as well as AI in teaching and learning. And I think we provided their website as well, if you want to check that out. I talked about strengthening vendor partnerships. And so we have really three kind of core vendors that we, really two vendors and an institutional partner that we work with. And we've been spending some time over the past year really thinking about What are we doing with them? How do we focus the work that we're doing with them to maximize impact for SUNY? And so I just wanted to call out D2L, who provides Brightspace, which is the foundation of our SUNY digital learning environment, and the work that we're doing with them to support not just deployment of the platform, but this past year we rolled out Lumi, which is their artificial intelligence functionality for faculty. We also did a pilot with their Lumi Tutor student-facing product, and they've been really tremendously supportive of the work that our campuses are doing to get the most out of that platform. Lumen Learning is another vendor that we have a longstanding partnership with at SUNY. They provide the SUNY OER services catalog. As Julie mentioned, this is a really kind of important component of the work that we do in academic affairs to support campuses with and faculty with accessible, day one ready, high quality courseware. And so we're really grateful to Lumen Learning for providing that. Increasingly, we are engaging with them around faculty professional development. They provide the Lumen Circles platform, and so they're a really tremendous partner who we've been working with for a long time. And then finally, Carnegie Mellon University, who is the Open Learning Initiative folks there and folks at the Simon Center, have been engaged with SUNY for many years. They provide support for some of the OER courseware development that we do that ends up in the Lumen catalog via their Taurus platform. But increasingly, they are also providing professional development opportunities for our faculty, and we're talking about more opportunities for our faculty to engage in research projects with their faculty. So excited to see that direction and more to come on that in the near future. And then finally, I want to end with some of the work that I am a colleague of mine, Jennifer Miller from the University of Albany, have been doing in leading change in higher education. So this gets back to innovating for achieving impact. And so most of the initiatives that we're involved in and that we talk about and work on across DS require faculty and staff or others to do things differently on their campuses. And that doesn't just happen because we say it should or because a campus president or provost says it should. There's a fair bit of change that has to take place. And so what we're trying to do is support campus leaders in how to lead change effectively and for more sustainable long-term impact. And so we've developed this certificate program that is available now through the Center for Professional Development. I'm really excited to say that we've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and 110 folks have completed the first course in Foundations of Leading Change in Higher Ed, and we continue to fill that every time it's offered. So share that for people who might be interested. We also support a community of practice for people who have completed that, and bring together folks a couple of times a semester to talk about how change is going and the work that they're doing. So that is where I am going to stop and will now turn it over. I think we're going to take questions at the end, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'll turn it over to Dan, who's going to give some updates from SUNY Online.
Terrific. All right. This is the hardest part of the summit for me. Let me see if I can get this correct. All right. Hopefully that is working. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And thank you so much, Julie and Kim, for sharing that information. I want to talk briefly about two things, about online learning at SUNY and about what we are doing here in SUNY Online. So a little bit of context on online learning at SUNY in general, and then drilling into some of the initiatives that we've got more locally. So Julie mentioned a couple of these numbers, and I'll go through this quickly. We have about 1,000 online programs from 57 different campuses right now advertised in our Explore website, which is tremendous. We've seen tremendous growth over the last 5 years, 6 years. In fact, I'm going to be mentioning Fall 24 a lot because We don't have fall 25 numbers yet. We're a big system and it takes us a while to count and verify the data. So the newest data we have is fall 24 that I'm going to be referencing some. Over 16,000 online course sections in fall 24, more than double or about double what we had in fall 2019, right? In fall 2019, so in 5 years, we almost doubled our number of online course sections. And that doesn't even include the almost 4,000 hybrid and high flex courses that we have. Hybrid and high flex courses, technically, we count them as face-to-face courses. So they're not included in that 16,000 number. If you do include them, we have over 20,000 courses, around 20,000 courses in fall 24 with an online element to them. Like Julie mentioned at the beginning, like I said at the beginning, this is our 27th time doing this. We've been doing online learning throughout the SUNY system for a very long time, since 1994. We have over 50,000 fully online students in fall 24 and over 150,000 students who took at least one online course, which is amazing. Again, those numbers are almost double as far as fully online students, what we had in fall 2019. So if we look at this over time, what this is a bar chart, a stacked bar chart showing the enrollment trends across 4 major categories, exclusively online students, which are in the red, the some but not all online students, which are in the orange, and the face-to-face students, which are in the blue. Plus, there's a small number of not applicable students each semester, from fall 2017 to fall 2024. You can see there was a major shift towards online learning during the pandemic, as we expected, but numbers have stabilized to a new sort of baseline that is considerably higher than we were in pre-pandemic years. So I'm super excited about seeing what the fall 2025 numbers look like. I asked my colleague Victoria, who is our numbers guru, for if the data is out like all the time. And we didn't quite make it by the start of the summit, but they will be out soon. She has a presentation in a couple more days, drilling into more about the numbers. So I'm looking forward to that. In the orange, by some online, we're talking about taking at least one online course. And that's what this graph is looking at. Percentage of students taking at least one online course in the system. Again, it was steadily increasing. We had a huge push to online learning during the pandemic. Not a surprise. That's what this line chart shows. And we've sort of evened out onto a new baseline since then. Now, who are these students? We spend a ton of time looking at who these students are, and this isn't a surprise, right? And this reflects some of what Julie mentioned. Our exclusively online students are significantly older than our in-person students, right? We understand that huge number of traditional college-age students taking our in-person courses, while a much more diverse age-wise group taking our fully online students, typically older. Not a big surprise. Looking more into the demographics compared to face-to-face students, our fully online students are much more likely to be attending part-time. Almost 2/3 of our online students attend part-time, while that's the inverse for our face-to-face students. And I'm not going to go into all the demographics that we have, but my point in showing this slide is really justifying why we have this event this week, right? That our online pedagogy is a little bit different than face-to-face pedagogy. Online students are a little bit different. Online students, how to develop an online program is a little bit different than for face-to-face programs. So, it's important that we spend some time focusing on just the online students. Now, what are we doing here at SUNY Online, and what is SUNY Online itself? Well, SUNY Online, first off, we are part of SUNY System Administration, here headquartered in Albany, New York. We don't have our own students. We don't have our own degrees. We don't have our own faculty. What we do is we support campuses in their online learning initiatives, right? We lead the SUNY system in the advancement of online education at the campus and system level. And we do that through a number of different things. I'm going to get into a little bit about some of what we do. We do that through exemplary models for online program development and courses, things like the Oscar rubric, which we're going to talk about and celebrate with our Oscar awards on Thursday. I hope you all are able to join us for that. Things like the Saucy, which we're going to talk about on Tuesday, and how that is being redeveloped by a team. We talk about SUNY Online Plus. We talk about institutional readiness, all of which are initiatives that we're going to talk about some this week. We do it through high quality and cost-effective services, such as our professional development initiatives, such as the SUNY Online Help Desk, such as the SUNY Online Application Services team, where we have teams of people that support tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of students, that 150,000 students plus throughout the system, that 50,000 plus online, fully online students, and everyone else, right? They deal with just tremendous amount of tickets on a daily basis, and we'll get into all that. We advocate for SUNY-wide policy. We update campuses and leaders on SUNY-wide and national policy related to online learning. There's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years in the national policy realm, as everyone is aware. And we promote and engage in research and innovation. I'm really pleased that we have a number of different research projects focused on student supports, focused on creative uses of the DLE, focused on SUNY Online Plus, a number of different research projects and innovations that we have going on. We have research focused on Oscar going on. We've just got a ton of different things that we're really proud of and able to advance the field. Now, all of this work is we break up our work into 4 major areas, all of which is in support of online student success. We talk about supporting online faculty, talk about academic technology, and supporting campus leaders, and that's how we have set up the week, right? Tuesday, we are going to look at online student success and how to support online learners. Wednesday, I believe we are looking at how to support campus leaders and program development. Thursday, we are looking at online faculty development and support for online instructional designers. And Friday, we're looking at academic technology. So we cover all of these things throughout this week and in general. Now, how do we support campus learners? We're going to get into all of this stuff, but I wanted to highlight a couple things. We have institutional readiness is our process of supporting campuses to determine in all elements if they are ready for, if they have online learning and how to support online students. We have 4 campuses right now. I think University of Buffalo, SUNY Cortland, SUNY Plattsburgh, SUNY Sullivan are all engaged in the institutional readiness process. We've worked with over 40 campuses overall. There's no cost involved in any of the things on this slide. And we really encourage you to reach out if you're at all interested in any of that. We do the Strategic Enrollment Planning Roundtable, which is another consulting engagement that, gets more of like beyond are you ready and are you doing it well? Like, what is your motivation for this? Why are you doing this? How do you align your strategic goals to enrollment targets? We have a very successful SUNY Online Plus. If Oscar is our course level way to ensure best practices, then SUNY Online Plus is our program level and institutional readiness is our campus level. So SUNY Online Plus really looks at the top at how to ensure that programs are the best they can be for our online learners and the quality that Julie talked about earlier. Really proud in the past year, Fashion Institute of Technology is a brand new SUNY Online Plus campus, FIT. Really pleased about that. Alfred State recertified for SUNY Online Plus in the past year. Buffalo State recertified. Stony Brook, Buffalo School of Social Work, Finger Lakes Community College, a number of different campuses. Overall, I believe we have and my colleague Maureen will kick me for not knowing this exactly, but I think we have 211 SUNY Online Plus programs across 26, 27 different campuses. So
Where we go?
lots of really good stuff going. 221, so close, so close. So lots of good stuff going on. And again, congratulations to those campuses who recently recertified or became SUNY Online Plus. We run regular webinars. I think I have a stat coming up that we ran 26 different webinars. No problem. We ran 26 different webinars over the past year. We ran the accessibility quest, focused on that. The Otter Institute. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong slide. We did the distance learning leader onboarding program, right? Which is, I believe we had 12 participants from 11 different campuses, which is great. And we've got 12 sortable dashboards for up-to-date data and information. Now, in the realm of supporting online faculty, we again, we've been working with Oscar for a long time. It's been downloaded over 20,000 times, which is just remarkable, by campuses across the country, across the world. We're super proud of that Oscar has received some of the recognition that it has and that it's supported so many courses in development. We've added RSI annotations. We've added DEISJ annotations, and we're expanding it soon to include more on accessibility. We've also really expanded our Oscar certifications. I know that my colleague Alexander Pickett is going to talk about that more this week. We have the Oscar Awards, like I said, on Thursday that we're looking forward to. We have over 450 people who have participated in Oscar certification activities, which is remarkable in different ones. We have a number of different professional development opportunities, including regular webinars, including the accessibility quest, including the Otter Institute, which is our online teaching, technology, and educational resources is what that stands for. I have it written out. I never remember. This past year, it focused on accessibility. I think next year it's focusing on AI and accessibility and change management. Again, that's a free program where we have hundreds of faculty and instructional designers engaged in the Otter Institute. And we have a number of certificate programs for IDs and faculty. So lots and lots of support going out to online faculty and online instructional designers. In the area of online student supports, like I mentioned, we are redeveloping the SAUCI. The SAUCI stands for the SUNY Online Student Success Inventory. There is a whole deep dive on the SAUCI. I believe it is tomorrow at 1:45. Susan Warner, Lloyd Gross are leading a team of people that is updating the SAUCI. I think they've interviewed more than 50 SUNY students and are about how to do that, and including some of our students who are here for our student panel tomorrow. So looking forward to that. We have spent a ton of effort on the digital academic support solution, which includes things like early alerts, student outreach, student analytics, things like that. We're rolling out new systems. We're supporting campuses in that. We have communities that practice around the digital academic support solution and around support for online learning practitioners. We have a number of support certificates, including the online student support certificate and the coaching strategy certificate. So offered through our partnership with the Center for Professional Development. And super excited about that. We have a whole website. We're rolling out more and more programming for those who support online students as well. And finally, in the area of academic technology, last but certainly not least, we maintain and expand the digital learning environment, which at its core is the D2L Brightspace LMS. We've added the Learning Object Repository. We've added accessibility tools. We added tremendous amount of work on data reporting. Steve Race and his colleagues and Harry Cargile and his colleagues have done tremendous amount of work to expand the digital learning environment, to maintain it for all 56 campuses that are part of that. And we've done a ton of work to increase campus level administrative abilities. We partnered with D2L to really expand for campuses what they're able to do. I know we have a session that I'm looking forward to this Friday, I believe, with Steve Race, where he's going to talk about some of the things coming up in the DLE. So looking forward to all that. Finally, always have to talk about the SUNY Online Help Desk because the numbers here are just astounding. This is a pie chart showing the breakdown of the SUNY Online Help Desk stats for the year 2025. We had over 35,000 tickets come into the help desk, split between faculty, campus staff, and students. Absolutely. And you can see the numbers. We had in August of 2025, I'll skip to that, we had almost 200 tickets a day. The tickets are spread out by the month. Our busiest months, this is a bar chart showing the different tickets generated each month on our help desk. August is by far our busiest month. We have almost 200 tickets a day during that month. September and January aren't too far behind. And then it eases a little bit in April, June, and November. So they do tremendous amount of work to support faculty, students, staff throughout the system. Very grateful to them. Finally, I want to mention that please, please, please reach out and stay informed. We have 4 different main websites that we maintain. Innovate.suny.edu, which Kim mentioned, online.suny.edu, dle.suny.edu, and explore.suny.edu. I've seen a lot of them have shown up in the chat already, which is great. Please, if you're not already, subscribe to our newsletter. We have a team that puts that out monthly and does a great job with that. Invite us to visit. We visited over 20 campuses in the past year. Thank you, Kim. We visited over 20 campuses in the past year to meet with instructional designers and campus leaders. And we would love, maybe not when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, but we would love to make it out to your campus to talk to you about online learning and how we can better support your initiatives. Please, please, please join one of our communities of practice. We work very closely with the instructional designers. We work closely with the LMS admins. We work closely with faculty, student support staff, the directors of online learning, the Doodle group. We work closely with them. We meet regularly with the CIOs, the CAOs, the EIT accessibility officers. One of the real benefits of SUNY's scale is that we have these great communities of practice where we can find like-minded people in similar professions, in similar roles across the system. So please, we would love to come and meet with you. We would love to talk to your community of practice. We would love if you participated in one of ours. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I did just want to briefly, let me take down my slides. Thank you. And I wanted to share that, I wanted to introduce Ram, our provost, Ramasubramanian, who he is Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost, and I wanted to invite him the opportunity to say a few words if he would like.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kim and Julie, for organizing this meeting and the strong attendance it has brought. Online education is an indispensable part of educating our students in the future. As our student demographics changes, the SUNY Reach program that brings in adult learners into the business, and as you showed in the data, Dan, that adult learners find it much more, they're much more likely to use online for obvious reasons. They have likely have other responsibilities, and they're juggling responsibilities. So it is an important aspect of our education. It's not only important for that sense. We are all trying to realize the the systemness, the impact of systemness, which is something we can bring if we think as a community on online education. And because online education, as we know, it removes geographical boundaries. So we have to create clear evidences of success with removing these boundaries and truly bringing to our students absolutely the best, education modality, education instructors with the absolutely right experience. Maybe even a single course you could think about being populated by faculty from across the state. I mean, there's many options. It opens doors that can be explored for effective education. You already do all of this, several of these things. In the most what I'm most proud of is the structured way in which you approach, scientific way in which you approach online education. It's not ad hoc that when I was teaching online, it was they said you can teach your class, come over to the studio, stand. They had a marker for my 2 feet, stand here and then just do your class, and then your students will be in class and we'll take care of the rest. That was the start. But what you have done is just miles apart in terms of teaching, educating faculty, and having certifications, and faculty, to their credit, seriously interested in doing this right and taking information from you, the experts, to facilitate the most impactful online education that we can possibly offer. So with that, and with the advent of AI that you have touched on, in AI in education, which we're going to be talking about as we come through, the online education is up for a step change in its efficacy to educate students, as well as, or even better than in class in some cases, and we should exploit that. And I know that you're already leaders in that, and I've seen your work in bringing AI to online education. So with that, I'm really excited about this summit, and I look forward to hearing presentations, during the day, and then rest of the week whenever possible on topics. And again, thank you for organizing this and your leadership in this, and for all of you attending, for your interest. And it is all driven by faculty eventually. The faculty have to take ownership of this, and we can offer all the tools that we can. And it's heartening to see a significant number of faculty are participating in this. So with that, congratulations, and I look forward to listening and learning more about what we are doing on online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words and for joining us today. Very much appreciated. John, I know we don't have a ton of time. We've got about 9 minutes left, but if there's any questions for any of us, I'm sure we're happy to answer them.
There was only one question in the chat, and it seems like it answered itself, about what does some online look like? Is that just a student taking one online class?
Right. That would be a student who's taking one, as opposed to no online classes or fully online, some but not all. Some but not all. So
blending online and face-to-face,
exactly.
Right? In the same in that same fall semester that the snapshot was taken.
Exactly. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments that we can help with? While we're waiting for those to come in the chat or whatnot, I did want to mention that at 1:30 today, we are handing out the Effective Practice Awards. My colleague Erin Maney will be leading that effort to recognize faculty and staff innovations from across the system. I've voted myself. I know we have some quality nominations, so I'm excited to see. I think we have had 99 different entries from 34 campuses over the last 12 years, and we are excited about this year's as well. Always vote for myself. Of course, someone's got to. My mom would be so proud if I won one. Following that, at 2:15, and it's the same link for the Zoom room as you are in now. As Kim mentioned, we are going to be talking about some of the digital transformation projects. And then at 3:30, we're going to be talking about some of our accessibility efforts around SUNY. So could not have a conference these days without talking about accessibility. But it is something that we have really focused on throughout the system, and Kim and her colleagues are going to fill us in on that. So great day today. Happy to answer any questions you have. John, anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, I just was going to put up the last slide that just says thank you, but I'll do that now real quick. And I wanted to thank Dan and Kim and Julie and our surprise guest Ram for their kind words today and everyone's attention during this session. We'd love for you to keep the conversation going after this session. If you registered by February 16th, you got an email inviting you to the SUNY Online Summit Companion course, where sometimes, the best questions or thoughts don't always strike us until later. And in this space, you can join discussion forums, ask questions, review resources, and continue exploring the ideas shared here. Dan already mentioned the next session, starting at 1:30 at the same Zoom link. And one of the things that I wanted to mention in the comments that Dan made about the Effective Practice Awards is these are peer voted. He said he voted, and it's because he did and he was able to, and so were other SUNY campus members able to vote and upvote their favorite projects here. And so they'll be getting the awards. And then I just have a few, let's see if I can find my chat. A few links I wanted to share with everyone for the agenda, ongoing agenda, the recordings. So when this is all over and done, you can grab the recordings, and then there's a link to SUNY Online there. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, John. Excellent work.